Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman Tzadi, Halachot of Tefillah, and we're up to Seif Yutet, Daf Kuf Chaf Gimel Amud Bet. Maran writes, and this is a Gemara that we've had together in Masechet Brachot, Daf Vav Amud Bet. The Gemara says, Yikva Makom Litfilato. A person has to have a Makom Kavua Litfilah. It's not that today I feel like davening in this shul, tomorrow I'm going to daven in that shul, this Shabbat I'm going to daven in this shul. If I wake up at 5, I'll daven netz in this place. If I wake up at 6, I'll daven at 7 o'clock at this place. If I wake up late, I'll go to that place. You have to have a makom kavua. So the Gemara says this. And the Gemara says, Kol hakovea makom litfilato Elohei Avraham be'ezro. A tremendous bracha. The one that protected Avraham Avinu, the progenitor of Judaism and Yiddishkeit, he is going to be for you, with you, if you have kiviut makom litfilah. Now we're going to discuss what the reasons of these are, but that's the halacha. Now Rabbeinu Asher Rosh writes, that's not just the Bet Knesset, but even within a Bet Knesset, you should have a makom kavua. That's where I daven. You know, you have your corner, you have your makom that is normally your makom tefillah, and that's where you daven every time that you daven. Shelo yeshanehu im lo letzorech, that you should not change your shul and your makom in the shul if it's not for a valid reason. You want to have, generally speaking, a set place. It's not sufficient only to have a set Bet Knesset, as we mentioned. That's the simple understanding of the Gemara. But Rabbeinu Asher also is brought in the Shulchan Aruch, even if you have a Bet Knesset that you always attend, as you should, you should have a set place in the shul, lechatchila as well. Now, many Chacham Obadia writes this, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu writes this. You don't come to shul and start yelling and screaming at someone that's sitting in your place because you want to show him with the finger. The Shulchan Aruch says that you have to have makom kavua. You have to have also sechel. It's not just keeping the Torah. You have to also have a little sechel to understand, to prioritize. Okay, someone sitting there, aside from the fact that the Kaf HaChaim writes within 4 amot, is still considered your makom, right? So hence, if you sit next to him, or even 2-3 seats away, still is your makom. That is the general makom that you sit. That's fine. You don't get, even if it's not available, and now you have to daven in a different corner, or even a different shul, you don't get into a fight with somebody because of this. You have to have, that much common sense a person is expected to have. Shulchan Aruch doesn't have to say everything. There's a Helek Chamishi of Shulchan Aruch, but nevertheless, most of the time that's not the case. You could choose, and also be on time. This again goes together with yesterday's Shulchan Aruch, that a person should try to be from one of the first 10 people who come. When you come from the first 10, you always could maintain your makom kavua in the Bet Knesset. But nevertheless, that's the halacham. The Mishna Berura writes, Sheken matzinu ba'Avraham Avinu. We learned this in the Gemara from Avraham, as we mentioned. Shkava makom litfilato k'tichtiv. It says, Vayashkem Avraham. This is when the Malachim came to him, and then he pleaded on behalf of the 5 cities Hashem wanted to destroy. And when that negotiation didn't go anywhere, he gets up early in the morning and he says, Vayashkem Avraham ba'boker. He woke up early. He got up early. El hamakom asher amat sham et pnei Hashem. In the same place, he went to stand to daven in the same exact place that he stood mitechila. From there, the Gemara learns that he had a makom kavua for the tefillah. Now, this is not just. There are many things that are important about this. For instance, the Kaf HaChaim says if it's a bet midrash, we said already this yesterday, that if a person has a choice between a place that's just the shul, or a place that also is a bet midrash, there's shiurim, there's Torah being taught in the morning, at night, a person must choose the bet knesset that's also a bet midrash, because the kedusha of a bet midrash is higher level of kedusha than a bet knesset. Surprisingly, as contrary to the common belief that shul is kadosh, but bet midrash is even more kadosh. So if you have, says the Kaf HaChaim, if you have a place that you learn it's makom kavua for you to learn, it's best to choose that same place also for your tefillah. It's makom kavua for your Torah and for tefillah. Again, this links and hinges to the Gemara that we mentioned before about Rav Ami and Rav Asi, that they would learn in the same, they would daven in the same exact place, ben ha'amudim, between the pillars of the Bet Midrash, that they would learn. That's the place that they would daven as well. So therefore, the Kaf Chaim says that would be the Chatchila, of course. Now, says the Mishnah Berura, even if a person sometimes has to daven at home, even in your home you should have a makom kavua. You should choose a place that, unfortunately, if sometime a person is sick, someone has COVID, whatever it is that may be, that will be mutar for him not to daven in the tzibur, and he ends up davening at home, you should have a makom kavua for your tefillah at home as well. Now, says the Mishnah Berura, makom kavua v'toch 400 chashuv makom echad de'i efshar letzamsem. Within 4 amot, 6 feet from each side, radius, is considered your makom. So again, as we mentioned before, the guy sitting in your seat, you go to the next seat, you go to the one after that, is also fine. Says Maran in Seif Chaf, and this is another Gemara yet that we learned in Masechet Brachot, and Daf Chet. On page 8, the Gemara says there, a person should enter the shul, enter the Bet Knesset, shiur shtep tachim, the measurement of 2 doors, and then daven. Now, there are 3 different ways in Rishonim how to understand this Gemara. That's what the Gemara says. Ashkaroch brings the language of the Gemara. What does that mean? It's really dependent on what the reason behind this is, and there are 3 different understandings. Now, Yerushalmi seems to say, and this is Orchot Chaim as well, that the reason for it is, and this is the first Yesh Omrim that Maran brings over here, says Maran, Yesh Mefarashim, there are those who explain the Gemara, Shi'ur Shte Ptachim, Haynu Shemonat Tfachim Yikanes Lefanim, that means 8 Tfachim, right? Shi'ur of every petach, for a person to walk in, must have been people who were much skinnier back then, like 4 Tvachim, that's how, it's a door. Doorway is 4 Tvachim. Shne Ptachim, it's 8 Tvachim. Why? About this much. That means don't sit next to the door of the shul. Why? Because it looks like sitting in the shul for you is such a burden, you can't wait until you get out. So you sit by the door, and the moment that the Chazan finishes Alenu L'Shabeach, the last Kaddish, before anyone gets to move out of the seat, you're already by your car, getting to your work, right? Once I'm at this, I want to make a parenthesis. People leave before the end of Tefillah. How ugly it is. This is Barechu, before Alenu L'Shabeach is out the door. But by Barechu, they're still standing by the door ready to run out. Now, some people have to do that. They have carpool, they have appointments, whatever it is. Fine, of course. But if you don't have that, some of us, it's just because we have shulophobia, right? You want to go home and say, I finished tefillah in 35 minutes, right? I was in and out. That's a bizayon for tefillah. What is that? Well, if we can't wait another 30 seconds. Remit? We can't wait. And then, as he's running out, he sees his friend by the door. So, shalom alecha. And then they're there for the next 5 minutes, schmoozing. I thought you were late. I haven't seen him for a while. So that it's an important thing. It's a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person, a Yid, should make up with himself, I'm never leaving the shul or turning my face around before I finish Alenu L'Shabeach. Not schmoozing with people, I'm not making faces, I'm not doing emojis with my face, or doing sign language, none of those. I have my talit on my head, I'm finishing tefillah at the end of Alenu L'Shabeach, then I'm available. I'm not available until the end of tefillah. According to Zohar HaKadosh, it is so important to finish the tefillah, because everything you say in tefillah is sulam mutzav arsa v'rosho magia shamayma. These are big things. You're going from olam ha'asiyah to olam abriya, to going up and up to olam ha'asilut, and then you're coming back down step by step from olam ha'asilut to olam ha'asiyah, and every kaddish is an elevation or is a transition to the next olam. These are important things. Even halachically speaking, kabbalistically halachically speaking, the two halachot that they say, some people say it by Tana de Berura. It's not the best way of doing it. Why are you stopping in the middle? Finish Adon. Now, the reason they do it is because they're afraid that people are going to run out. Unfortunately, right? People shouldn't, right? You want to learn shte halachot, you learn two halachot every day, right? Well, it's not kedai to stay in shul another minute to learn two halachot. So people should not be running out. The reason they do it by Tana the Berura is because they want to make sure people don't run out. So, but halachically, kabbalistically speaking, it's not the right thing to do. Finish the tefillah in order, and then you leave the shul. So that's parenthesis closed.
According to some, you're not even supposed to nod. Somebody comes in to the shul to acknowledge them coming in.
Yeah, so we have spoken about that before, of what you can and what you cannot do during the time of Shema, during the time of Birkot Kriyat Shema. Sometimes you could even answer Shalom. If someone says Shalom Aleichem, sometimes you could say Aleichem Shalom, depending on who it is, and where it is, and what the scenario is. We have spoken about those.
Even before the Shema, just in the beginning, when you're in the shul, somebody comes in, not even nodding.
Well, that's not, no, that you could do. You could be respectful. You could be respectful and nod to them, especially if they nod, you nod back, or even if they say hi, you could answer them. It's not the derech eretz is important, but at the same time, we're talking about things that are not necessary. Like, people leave the shul. So that's the first reason, which is in Yerushalmi or Chachayim, that you should not, it shouldn't look like you're sick and tired of shul and you can't wait to get out. So therefore, it's a matter of... So according to that, if that's your makom kavua, it says, Mr. So-and-so on your seat, every time you sit, everyone knows you sit by the door. Right? That's fine. Because it doesn't look like you're getting out. It's my makom kavua in the shul. If the shul is packed, Baruch Hashem, and there's no other seat left, it's fine. No problem. It's just, if you have a choice, the whole shul is empty and you're sitting by the door. So why are you sitting by the door? Because you want to get out as soon as possible. That's not lo yafeh. That's not proper. That's one. V'yesh mefarshim, and there are those who explain, she'ata mipeneh shemabit lachutz. There are those who say that the reason is because he's going to look outside and is going to distract his kavanah. The Tur brings this in the name of the Maram Mirutenburg, Rabbi Meir Mirutenburg. This is the Rebbe of Rabbeinu Asher, Rebbe of Rosh. He was captured. Unfortunately, he died in captivity, in jail, and so on. But he's the source of Minhagei Ashkenaz in a very major way. And he writes the reason for it is because of lack of kavanah. Sitting by the street, especially imagine the shuls that are a storefront. Mamash by a street, everything that happens in the street, you see or you hear. So sitting by the door is not proper, because every time they open and close, you look outside, or as the window you look outside, it's not proper. According to that, if you have a shul that's on the second floor, or is not next to the shul, right? The Bach writes that because of this, the door of the shul should not open to the street. You should always have like a landing. You should have like a room. First you enter that, and from that you enter the shul, because you want to drop from the street into the Bet Knesset. You want it to be a proper entrance. So that's what Maram Mirutenburg says. And the third and final one says the Shulchan Aruch. Let's just read this first one. According to this, if it's not open directly to Reshut Harabim, to the public domain, it's no problem. The final one, this is the Rosh himself. Rabbeinu Asher himself, Shelo yemaher leitpalel miyad keshenichnas. It's not talking about space. It's talking about nothing to do with the space. You want to stand by the door and daven, Hazaku Baruch Kol HaKavod. It's not a space. It's a time that passes for you to enter to Ptachim. That means a few seconds. Give it this. You come in and you start right away. That's not a proper way of entering Tefillah. You don't jump into a Tefillah like that. Take a few seconds. Be mityashev b'da'at. Calm your nerves. Get prepared for Tefillah. And then start davening. Don't jump into davening, into Tefillah immediately. Ela yisheh shiur, you should wait. Shiur shtei ptachim. The time is a few seconds. V'nachon lachosh lachol ha-pirushim. Maran says, okay, 3 pirushim. Which one is halacha? Says Maran, all 3. You should be makpid for all 3. On one hand, don't stand by the door because it looks like you're running out. Even if it's your makom kavua, don't stand by the door. Don't make your makom kavua there. If it's opening to the street, or if it's by Shabbat, let's say all the men, women are outside and they're schmoozing in the hallway, and you're mamash right next to the hallway, and you hear the United Nations politics and everything that's going on in the world of stocks and whatnot. That's not the proper place of tefillah. If you're going to be, distracted like that, or people pass in front of you because you're by the door davening, and every second someone else is coming in and going out, and it's going to disturb your tefillah. That we're going to talk about Siman Kuf Bet later on as well. It's also not the right thing. And also, don't jump into tefillah right away. When you come in, take a few moments to prepare your mindset for tefillah, right? Tikon tefillati lefanecha, right? Tachin libam takshiv oznecha. You prepare your heart, you prepare your mindset, and then takshiv oznecha. Then Hashem will listen to that tefillah. Says the Mishna Berura, says Chafetz Chaim. Shush Neptachim, he brings the Bachta we mentioned, that therefore you should make an azara in front of Bet Knesset. Don't have it from Reshut HaRabim jumping into the Bet Knesset, in the sanctuary, but have a room in the middle, have a landing type of thing, that before you enter, you have some sort of a room that you don't hear the noise and the distraction of the shul every moment of the tefillah, for people who are sitting there. Dugmat ha'ulam. He says it should be like ulam. In Bet HaMikdash also, you didn't enter the Kodesh right away. You had the ulam before. You came from Chatzer, you came to ulam, then you went to the Kodesh. Therefore, you should have a ulam in front of Bet Knesset as well, says the Bach. Says the Mishnah Berura. V'chen katav Magen Avraham. Magen Avraham also agrees with the Bach. V'chen na'agu kayom. That's the minhag, says the Chafetz Chaim. Nowadays, that when you build a shul, you don't build in a way that from a street you walk into the sanctuary. You have a ulam, you have a room in the middle, you have a azara. Therefore, you should not be davening in that hallway in front of the shul, because the hallway is open to the street and you will be transgressing this Shulchan Aruch. It's not the right thing to do. Aside from all the other reasons of Kiddushat Bet HaKnesset and so on, there is this additional reason as well. Now, this you should wait a little bit and then daven. The reason, says Chafetz Chaim, is Kedesh Yashev Dato. You want to have Yeshuvat Dat, you want to have a little preparation for Tefillah, and then start davening. And the Gemara says, he brings over here, Mechabedin bepetach Bet Knesset. You do tarof, you give kavod to people who are older or more significant in Torah by the petach of Bet Knesset. Even though that the petach, this is a Gemara in Mem Zayin, I believe, in Masechet Brachot. The Mem Zayin, the Gemara there talks about, let's say, by the door of the bathroom or by a bridge. The doors or the gateways that don't have mezuzah, you don't have to be mechabed, give kavod to elder or to a more significant person. But the petach Bet Knesset, even though that's patur from mezuzah, like the Gemara says in Masechet Yuma Daf Yud Aleph, still you would do it because the petach haraui le mezuzah. It's a petach that would be fit for mezuzah. Therefore, you do that whole respect thing of letting the gadol, letting the elder or the more significant go first in the door of Bet Knesset. And a person that enters the Bet Knesset and finds that the people are starting to daven Shemona Esrei, Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul writes that you should also wait these few seconds before you start. Even though you want to start with the Tzivur Shemona Esrei, still Wait. Close your eyes. Be miyushav b'dat. A few seconds. Right? Da lifnei mi ata omed. First, think of what you're standing to do. Like Mr. Sharim says, you're coming to speak, to deliver a dialogue, not a monologue. You're speaking conversation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, it's important to be miyushav b'dat first before a person davens. And that concludes Seif Chaf. And Bezat Hashem, we will continue in the days to come.